Hello everyone, my name is Brienne Guittard, and for my project, I decided to critique the Georgetown Go station. On the Access Now app, the Go station is labeled as accessible, but throughout this presentation, I will show you how this location is actually not accessible to all and lacks many portions of universal design. So this Go station is located in the small town of Georgetown, which is just located outside of the GTA. Due to its proximity to the city, it serves as a convenient transportation hub for commuters and travelers within Georgetown or the surrounding area. By ensuring accessibility to, from, and within the station, it helps with the safety and convenience for all passengers. As a result, I addressed my email to the mayor of Halton Hills region to explain the lack of accessibility and universal design that was experienced at the Go station. So shortly, I'll be discussing the barriers that were experienced at the station, but before I do that, I wanted to quickly explain who this affects. So throughout this presentation, you'll notice that the barriers can affect multiple people, including anyone with physical disabilities, which could include but are not limited to people with mobility aids and muscular dystrophy, and people with non-physical disabilities, including but not limited to mental health conditions, chronic fatigue, or learning disabilities. Throughout this presentation, I will discuss each barrier encountered and explain what aspects of universal design or accessibility it has failed to meet. As for the 7 principles of universal design, we have equitable use, flexibility in use, simple intuitive, perceptible information, tolerance for error, low physical effort, and size and space for approach and use. The 5 levels of accessibility include movement, sense, architecture, communication, and agency. The first barrier that was experienced is shown to the picture on the left, which shows accessible parking spots, which are kind of faded. And then at the top left corner, it has a train station sign and an accessible sign showing directions to the accessible path. Although there is signage for the accessible path, it lacks clarity regarding which dock the path leads to. So this station specifically has 4 docks, but we have no idea which dock this path is leading to. Therefore, these barriers fail the simple intuitive principle of universal design because the signage may not be easy for everybody to understand. And it also fails the perceptible information principle because it does not communicate necessary information effectively. As a result, it also fails the communication level of the 5 levels of accessibility. The second barrier is shown on the picture to the left, which shows a gentleman using a wheelchair parked within the GO train shelter. This shows that the shelters have a lack of space within the shelter as it does not allow for multiple people with multiple forms of abilities to use the shelter. The shelters also do not have any air conditioning or heating systems within them. As a result, this barrier fails the flexibility principle of universal design because the space does not accommodate a wide range of preferences and abilities. It fails the equitable use principle because it is not useful or marketable to various individuals with various abilities. It lacks the space for approach and use principle because the space is not an appropriate size for manipulation and use regardless of the user's body size or mobility. As a result, this space is poorly built and therefore lacks the architectural level of the 5 levels of accessibility. So the next barrier that was encountered is shown on the picture to the right, which shows an aerial view of the Georgetown Go station. The south side of the station depicts the station house side, and the north side of the station depicts the accessible path side of the station. The image shows 2 available GPS routes from one side of the station to the other, each showing about a 5-minute drive. From the station house side, there is no accessible paths to the docks. However, there is a tunnel that goes underground and leads to the docks, but the only way to access this tunnel is by using stairs. Therefore, this barrier fails the equitable use principle because it's not marketable to people with diverse abilities. It fails the flexibility in use principle because it does not accommodate a wide range of individual needs or abilities. The simple intuitive principle and perceptible principle because there is no signs on the station side addressing the lack of accessible pathways, and it does not tell somebody how to get to the north side of the station. And it also fails the physical effort principle because one might travel to the station house side, realize that they need accessible accommodations, and then they have to travel all the way around the station to get it. As a result, this barrier fails the movement, architectural, communication, and agency level of accessibility. The next barrier that I experienced is shown on the picture to the right, and it depicts a ramp with two entrances to Dock 1. Although this is an accessible dock, it lacks any form of shelter or seating within the dock. Therefore, this barrier fails the flexibility in use principle because it does not accommodate to what many people might need. If they need shelter, if they need seating. So someone with chronic pain, for example, they might need to sit down while they're waiting for the train, but they're not going to be able to do that. The last barrier that will be discussed is shown on the picture to the right, which is an aerial view of the Georgetown Go station. It depicts two accessible parking areas and an accessible path which is labeled as red that leads to Dock 2, 3, and 4. The path is long and dangerous because it passes the end of the train tracks. This barrier fails the equitable use, flexibility in use, and tolerance for error principles because it puts people into dangerous situations crossing the edge of the train tracks that other individuals who can use the tunnel will not encounter. It also fails the low physical effort principle because it makes individuals take a long path around the train tracks to get to the docks. As a result, this barrier fails the movement, architectural, and sense levels of accessibility because one can easily get overwhelmed or stressed from this accessible path. Also, due to the path crossing so closely to the end of the train tracks, it can also cause a sensory overload due to the sounds of the trains. Overall, all these barriers highlight the concerning fact that the Georgetown Go station fails all 7 principles of universal design and all 5 levels of accessibility. As a result, recommendations were made to the Mayor of Halton Hills to attempt to improve the Georgetown Go station and make it more accessible and inclusive to all. The first recommendation is to improve the accessibility to the docks by expanding the existing tunnel and installing elevators to each dock. This provides a safer, less complicated route for all passengers and enables people with diverse abilities to be more independent. The second recommendation involves improving signage throughout the station to enhance usability and efficiency. The third recommendation is to provide more accessible seating and shelters throughout the station, especially at Dock 1 where there is no seating or shelters. The shelters should be made larger so that there is an adequate space for multiple people with multiple abilities. While completing this course, I started to notice that there were some accessible barriers at my workplace, and I was about to ask who I could talk to about these, but fortunately, my work actually sent out an accessible survey recently for workers to complete. On this survey, I'm now able to speak my opinion with knowledge and confidence after completing this class. Overall, I now will be able to spot out these small barriers or even larger barriers and be able to direct my concerns to try to help my workplace become one step closer to an all-inclusive and universal design. And these are the references that I've used within this presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you all have a good day.